Oh my God, you guys come in, sit down and shut the door. Diddy's bail has been officially denied. Judge Aaron read him down. On top of that, do you know that as much as Diddy is trying to act like he's king of the hill running the jail, do you know that he is being threatened in jail by other inmates and try to use that as an excuse to get out of jail? Judge Aaron said, not today, not tomorrow. I don't care how many stupid pieces Christian Combs puts out about missing his mama and needing his daddy. Boy, you almost 30 years old. If you don't suck it up, baby, it's a cold world. You better bundle up, y'all. Let's get into this. Let me also say that the real shorty woo, Gina's letter didn't make any difference. If you guys remember, Gina wrote this dumb letter, even though a lot of people are pointing to the verbiage she used and saying this letter was written a while ago, because it said in one line, Sean Holmes
no longer
stands
has a
accused.
voice who will
He's already
pursue
been
justice
convicted.
for her
You've already been
accusation.
convicted. So when
As
was
of the
this
taken
letter
against
written?
Diddy.
But
No
it doesn't matter
expansion of the
because Judge Aaron
investigation.
said
No
you want
isolation orders.
You want
No
a current
equipment
legal
access.
case. You want something
No
current. I'll
suspension
give
of
you something
attorney
current.
communication.
How about this is hot off of my desk? Hell no, Diddy. You ain't gonna go. Let's get into this. All right, this is what the judge said. Defendant Sean Holmes renews his request for the bail pending his sentencing. You guys hold on because we're going to get to the part where Judge Aaron reveals that Diddy said he was being threatened by inmates. And it makes me look at Mark Agnell. I thought you was getting rounds of applause. I thought people were like, oh my God, you're our hero. I thought you were inspiring everybody in the MDC. Who know? Even the MDC was trying to break you down. Now, I don't know if they think Sean Diddy Collins is innocent or not. I do know based off of all my seasons of Oz. How many seasons were Oz with a dabby that they punish you in jail if they think that you are a PDF file or a predator? I wonder if that got anything to do with it. I'm not saying Sean Diddy Combs is a PDF file or a predator. Well, I do think he is a predator and preys on women. But I am saying that if we found out the other stuff is true, I wouldn't be surprised. That's all I'm saying. So let's get into this. Defendant Sean Combs renews his request for bail pending his sentencing. On this application, Combs doesn't contest that detention is mandatory for his crimes of conviction, which if you guys don't know, there's actual law that the Congress put in saying that if you are convicted under the MN Act, it is mandatory jail being held without bail. He relies solely on the limited exception to mandatory detention where one, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence that the person is not likely to flee or pose a danger to the safety of any other person or community released. Now keep in mind that when the prosecution wrote their clapback, they said he 100% is a flight risk. And we were like, why? And they were like, because we at first thought it was going to be 4 to 5. Now we're asking for significantly more time. They are saying that now the prosecution is going to go to 4 to 5 years per charge. Where's all those Diddy people that were out there doing the lambada, the forbidden dance outside of court? You think they're still smiling? It don't matter. Let's get back into this letter. Okay. Or there are 2 exceptional reasons why such person's detention would not be appropriate. Exceptional reasons exist. Where now he's going to cite case law where there's a unique combination of circumstances giving rise to a situation that are out of the ordinary. This is in US v. Collin also. They said this statutory framework creates a presumption in favor of detention that places a plainly substantial burden of proof on the defendant seeking release. So again, when you have the burden of proof, that means that you got to do everything and start windmilling in a court of law to prove why you deserve to get out. They said ask for the risk of flight or danger. Did he fails to meet his burden by clear and convincing evidence for the reasons set forth on the record at the July 2nd, increasing the amount of the bond or devising additional conditions doesn't change the calculus given the circumstances and the heavy burden of proof that Diddy bears. Now let's get back into that burden of proof. Okay. When you have the burden of proof, you are starting from 0 and you got to go to 1. Diddy, the judge is saying, is acting like he was already at 100 and the prosecution has to minus. Yeah, that's what happened in the criminal case. The prosecution had the burden of proof. Diddy was starting at 100, which is innocent, and they had to work their way down. Diddy seems to be not understand. Now let's keep going because I know he is mad at the Dream Team. Okay, they did the impossible and got that mofo out of Rico. However, because of the admissions they had to make to sway the jury,
and no longer
this
has
is
a
the
voice
exact
who will
reason that
pursue
Diddy
justice
still will
for
be
her
in jail
accusation.
For at least 4 to 5 years.
As of the
But,
taken
like
against
the
Diddy,
prosecution said,
no expansion of the
substantially more.
investigation,
Okay, let's get back
no
into this
isolation
letter.
orders,
Okay, they said that
no
Diddy
equipment
failed to meet
access,
his burden
no
by clear
suspension
and
of attorney
convincing evidence for the
communication.
reasons set forth They said that increasing the amount of the bond or imposing additional conditions doesn't change the calculus given the circumstances and the heavy burden of proof that Diddy bear. Judge Aaron then goes to quote himself from what he said at the bail hearing on July 2nd, which honestly makes me laugh because Judge Aaron was like, "Y'all gonna stop playing with me? I said what I said and I said it with my chest." He quoted himself. He said at trial, the defense conceded the defendant's violence in personal relationships. This type of violence, which happens behind closed doors, is impossible to police with conditions. On this basis alone, Diddy's application is denied. He goes on to say, even if the flight or danger requirement were satisfied, and it's not, there is no exceptional reasons warranting a departure from what Congress has required. Combs' Mann Act arguments might attraction in a case that didn't involve evidence of violence, coercion, or subjugation in connection with the acts of prostitution at issue. But the record here contains evidence of all three. While Combs may contend at sentencing that this is evidence that this evidence should be discounted, and that what happened was nothing more than a case of willing swingers utilizing the voluntary services of escorts for their mutual pleasure. The government takes an opposite view that Cassie Major and Jane were beaten, they were coerced, they were threatened, they were lied to and victimized by Combs as part of their participation in these events. This makes this case unlike any of the cases Diddy points to and places it outside the narrow exception to detention that Congress otherwise deemed mandatory. I know that's right, Judge Aaron. You better let these dummies know. It don't matter whether Diddy is fine getting dogs. It don't matter whether Diddy looks at a violent relationship as an up and down. This ain't about you anymore, dummy. This is about protecting the public. Because even a victim consenting to be victimized is not enough. If you consent to be taken off this earth, I'm sorry. And if you consent to somebody taking you off this, grinding you up, and using your butt as hamburger helper for the last supper that they're feeding the cannibals club. Okay, that's you, boo. That's you, boo, boo. Okay, that does not mean that we have to consent at all to letting that type of person stay in the public eye. And that's basically what Judge Aaron was saying. Well, let's get into this dragging blah, blah, blah. Okay, wait, where were we? Okay, this makes this case unlike any of the cases Combs points to and places it outside the narrow exception to detention that Congress otherwise deemed mandatory. To be clear, as indicated at the July 2nd hearing, the court offers no view as to how the parties' competing arguments about the evidence will cash out for purposes of sentencing, which is happening in just 6. At this juncture, however, the record doesn't establish the kind of out-of-the-ordinary exceptional circumstances requiring immediate release. Now here's the part that it gagged me. Clones also points to squalor and danger at the Metropolitan Detention Center, conditions that he says have been aggravated by the federal government's aggressive budget cuts this year. This fool is desperate. Now that Trump left him to float in the wind, he is doing everything he can. Aggressive budget cuts. The public outcry concerning these conditions has come from all corners, but as Coles acknowledges, the MDC staff has been able to keep him safe and attend to his needs even during an incident of threatened violence from an inmate. Then he quoted U.S. v. Child. He said the court found that the conditions at the MDC rose to the level of exceptional reasons, warning release where it was undisputed that the defendant posed no risk of flight or danger and where unique circumstances counseled release, including the defendant's advanced age and serious medical conditions, which require care that the MDC may not be able to provide. Those facts are not present here and nothing in Chavez. That's this pivotal case that did tried to cite to get out.
Present, and no longer has a voice who will pursue justice for her accusation. As of the taken against Diddy, no expansion of the investigation, no isolation orders, no equipment access, no suspension of attorney communication.
Combs fails to satisfy his burden to demonstrate the entitlement to release. The motion for bail is denied. Y'all listen. Thank God for Judge Aaron and thank God for the Southern District of New York not falling for the okie not falling for, like Maureen Comey said, we operate without fear. And Emily, who is the lead prosecutor down on the case, literally said, don't worry, we operating on fear or favor because right now Diddy is out of both. You guys listen, let me know what you think in the comments. There is a civil war brewing in the Diddy camp. Christian and his little sob story didn't work. And let me tell you something also, okay? These little shenanigans worked on the dumb jury members that let him go. Oh, he has a young family, a black man. Shut up. Because at the end of the day, Judge Aaron sees Diddy for his work. And baby, Diddy, it looks like everything you did is finally catching up to you. And for those people saying no, he doesn't deserve, What we're not going to do is not act like Diddy wasn't running amok and acting a fool, and he admitted to 90% of the violence in the case. And if you guys want him to be freed so much, why don't you go up to the MDC and try to see if you can be his cellmate, right? I'm sure he'd be happy to see you. Anyway, oh, also, what do y'all think about him being threatened in the Manhattan jail? You think that really happened, or you think he was lying? Anyway, y'all, let me know what you think in the comments. I will talk to y'all later. I'm gonna get some videos out. There's so much going on between Gina, Young Miami. You heard Christian's left. Also, did y'all hear what's going on with Misa and Mary? It don't matter. I'll be back with the news. Bye.